Just a heads up for any of you that feel like you may have missed something in this broadcast you want to go back and watch, or there's something you can't make out or doesn't look clear, please come. You can see the broadcast streaming or download it in its entirety at fantasysportpros.com. Welcome, everyone, to the 2006 Fantasy Football Champs Challenge, streamed and downloaded on fantasysportpros.com. My name's John Millman, and this is my cousin Ian Millman, and together we are the Fantasy Football Champs. Now, the Champs Challenge is the premier fantasy football league in the industry, and when you see the list of participants, you'll see why.
Now, we started the Champs Challenge 5 years ago. Basically, we wanted to bring the best in the industry together in one league. Our attitude was that we're the best in the business, and we were willing to put our reputation and our business on the line to prove it.
Now, you don't have to take our word for it. We've won the Fantasy Football Index magazine's experts poll twice.
That's against the top 20 experts in the industry.
We've also won the Football Diehards and Wyckoff magazine's experts poll. We've won the World Championship of Fantasy Football Hall of Fame League.
We're in the World Championship Fantasy Football Hall of Fame.
We won the Sirius Satellite Expert League. We've won our very own Champs Challenge, of course.
And we've been published in countless magazines, including Fantasy Index, FF Diehards, Pro Forecast Magazine, Wyckoff Magazine, Fantasy Football Draft Book, and Cheat Sheets Magazine.
And there's a good chance you saw us on ESPN's Cold Pizza, and you probably heard us on countless national radio broadcasts. The Champs Challenge is the premier fantasy football expert league in the industry. And when we read you the list of participants, you'll see why.
Drafting out of the one hole from thehuddle.com, we have Whitney Walters. Whitney is a senior NFL analyst and co-founded thehuddle.com in 1997. Whitney has been involved in the fantasy sports industry for 16 years. He currently serves on the board of directors of the Fantasy Sports Trade Association and is a member of the Pro Football Writers of America.
Drafting number 2, Adam Kaplan, FootballInjuries.com. Now, Adam is the editor of FootballInjuries.com and is known nationally as one of the leading injury insiders in the country. Kaplan can be heard on Sirius NFL Radio on Friday evenings from 8 to 11, co-hosting Sirius NFL Radio, and on the NFL Today radio show on Westwood One on Sunday morning.
Out of the number 3 hole from FantasyGuru.com, we have John Hansen. John has published FantasyGuru.com since 1995. He's won 12 championships in high-profile experts leagues. He's appeared on NFL Fantasy Live and NFL Network's Playbook. John currently appears weekly on the Fantasy Fix Show on Sportsnet's local stations and nationally on DirecTV. He hosts Sirius Satellite Radio's Sirius Fantasy Football and launched his own publication nationally called FantasyGuru.com Magazine.
Drafting number 4, representing NFL.com, Michael Fabiano. Now, Michael's been in the fantasy football business since 2000, which is when he started his career at CBSSportsline.com. After almost 6 years at Sportsline.com, Michael's now the featured fantasy expert on NFL.com and also makes appearances on the NFL Network.
Out of the 5 hole, from DraftSharks.com, we have Lenny Papano. Papano is the co-founder of DraftSharks.com and the World Championship of Fantasy Football, better known as Wyckoff.com. He's won several industry awards, including the Fantasy Sports Writers Association's Best Article of the Year in 2005. DraftSharks.com has won numerous expert leagues and magazine experts polls since being created back in 1999. Out of the 6th hole, well, you have yours truly, Fantasy Football Champs, but enough about us.
And drafting out of 7, we have Emil Kadlec. Now, Emil is the founder of Fantasy Football Pro Forecast Magazine, co-founder of FootballDiehards.com, co-founder of the World Championship of Fantasy Football, and has been nominated for the Fantasy Sports Hall of Fame for his contributions in the publishing business.
Out of the 8 hole, from KFFL.com, we have William Del Pilar. Now, Del Pilar, KFFL.com's lead analyst, has been involved in NFL coverage since 1998 and in the fantasy industry since 1991. His work has been seen on CBS Sportsline, Yahoo, NFL.com, and the NFL Network. Representing KFFL, Del Pilar has been involved in over a dozen expert championships since 1997 and has 2 top 10 finishes in the World Championship of Fantasy Football, the premier high-stakes event in the industry.
Drafting number 9, representing Fantasy Football Index magazine, we have Ian Allen. Now, Ian's been the senior writer for Fantasy Football Index magazine for the last 20 years. He's responsible for stacking that publication's draft board and produces most of the content for the company's magazine and newsletters.
Out of the 10 hole from ESPN.com, we have Scott Engel. Engel is a fantasy football writer for ESPN.com, which offers comprehensive expert analysis and gives you in-depth advice and tips. Scott has been writing about fantasy football for the past decade. He's won several Expert League championships, and in fact, in 2005, he won 4 fantasy football Super Bowls and enjoyed his first undefeated season.
Wow. Drafting 11. FFtoday.com, represented by Mike Kruger, who's the owner and publisher of FFtoday.com. Now, he's won many expert leagues, including the 2003, 2004 Fantasy Shootout, beat out 14 other experts in BTG Sports Preseason Expert Poll, and is a past proud winner of the 2003 FF Champs Challenge.
And last but not least, from the 12 hole from fantasyfootball.com, we have Ryan Houston. Houston is the CEO of fantasyfootball.com. He's written for over a dozen national magazines, and before fantasyfootball.com, he was the CEO of Fantasy Football Asylum, one of the fastest growing sites in the market. His work has also appeared in Sports Illustrated for over 5 years. Now, we told you we've invited the cream of the crop, and judging by that, I think you can make the conclusion yourself. We have. When we come back, we're going to discuss the rules, some brief strategies, and we're going to meet our lovely assistant, Vanessa.